Yes.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, I talked with a guy named Tyler, and at one point he kind of pointed out that I was wearing a mask, right? And so that was important, I think, for for me because it's like, yeah, I am wearing a mask. And then it's like, is that such a bad thing? Is it a good thing? So once you hit the record button, then it could end up on the internet public. It's like,
Yeah, yeah. For those,
what
if we keep this part in, as we were just saying, it's still nerve-wracking to record and stuff because I'm still new to this. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's like how much do you want the world to know who you really are? And um, yeah, what if you make a mistake and you say something that would get you fired or something like that? I don't
Hmm.
know.
Yeah. I mean, for sure. I think like, well, I mean,
The
um,
worst case is someone like wants to come after you and your family. That would be. I've had that thought cross my mind.
mhm.
So
Yeah,
it's
it's like, well, I think there's a lot of dimensions to it. Like, uh, there are a couple things I wanted to, uh, that I had like listed that I was hoping to get to, but
yeah,
this is definitely interesting. Like, I think there's a lot of aspects to it, because there's like a self-censorship that people do, like you're kind of talking about, like, oh, I'm gonna be careful with what I say, and then there's also like there's like I think there's the censorship of the medium in that like we're not looking each other in the eye,
right.
and also
It's like
like
if I look
many
here, then
many
I'm not looking
things.
at. I can look
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
camera, but then I'm not looking at your eye.
yeah, yeah, like many things, like I think muscle tension, body position, all that, electrical fields. Um,
Yeah.
but
Pheromones. What did you
yeah,
smell?
yeah, 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 and
Like, have I been stressed out for the last week and you can smell it on me?
yeah, man. Um, but I feel like there was another one that's now slipping my mind. Um,
The types
I
of
guess
ways
just
that
like
the medium impacts
just
our
like
interaction.
general. I think like general. Sorry, what were you saying?
Are you talking about the ways in which the medium
I'm talking
will
about like the mask, like you were talking about
the mask? Yeah.
yeah, because I think that's a super deep idea.
Well, also like like when I'm interacting with my wife, and then like my true self gets like frustrated or offended because I'm the king and you shouldn't offend us, king. And then I just speak what's on my mind.
Hmm.
Then all of a sudden I can start hurting people with my words, right? And that's my true self, right? That's who I was.
Hmm.
And so putting on a mask,
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely a
being
place for
careful,
persona. Yeah.
like being careful is it's not a bad thing because these words can hurt, you
Hmm.
know. Um, if you're trying to make Jesus your king, you could say, well, would the king have treated his wife that way? Yeah,
Hmm.
if the best king was here, would he have spoke to my wife that way? So, just being your authentic self, even when you become petty, it's dangerous. You can end up hurting
Well, yeah, I'm
hurting people
reminded
with your
of
words.
the Jordan Peterson saying like the truth, like it's not just say the truth. It's like there's a certain skill to being truthful, like where it's also about like how you say it, of course, and I think how you say it is also like that's almost like it's of supreme, it's very important,
Yeah.
and I think all of that gets kind of, not all of it, but a lot of it gets cut out like through the internet and stuff, but
I
um
just I just had the vision of this movie with Bruce Willis where they they basically control these avatars. Have you
mhm.
seen that movie where
No.
they hop into avatars? But it
Hmm.
was like an interesting scene where him and his wife are like in different rooms and they've got this kind of troubled marriage because of I think something happened to their daughter,
Hmm.
and uh, but there was a moment when he's trying to interact with her through these avatars out in space, like they're laying
Hmm.
side by side, room by room, but they've
Hmm.
like found each other's avatars and they're interacting with each other. And I think he ends up saying something that like she ends up like hitting the pause button. So then her avatar just goes blank, and then she ends up, crying. She ends up crying, and her um so basically the avatar is a mask, and you can have these, you can like
Mhm.
hide these
Yeah.
emotions,
I
behind the
think the
mask.
yeah, I think the video calls is like really a huge step up though, in my opinion, because like there I think it's like I think particularly the textual communication is kind of what I'm ranting about,
Yep.
uh perhaps
I've hurt
excessively.
people with text. I've have hurt people with text
Yeah, because text,
for
like,
sure.
I really think there's something in the living aspect of like the speaking and the gesture, that like that's like where the spiritual dimension like comes through or something like that. Um, I'm not
Yeah,
sure. Like,
I think so. Like
yeah, I
there's
mean,
a
I kind of
the
am sure, but
tone.
I just don't know like the words to use.
It sounds, yeah, it sounds about right. But
Mhm,
even like if I go monotone and I just like start putting out the words, it can end up being received based on the spirit and the person encountering those words.
mhm.
So, sometimes I do a disservice going monotone, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but it's similar to text
Mhm.
that it's not, you won't see the spirit in the person that's providing, producing those symbols, those expressions, but whatever spirit's in you'll interpret it that way. And even though it could have been interpreted two, three, four, 1,000
Yeah,
ways,
this
you'll
gets to
interpret
something
it
that
the
I
one
think is
way.
really interesting. Yeah, like this is have you seen Galhead or Adonis' video, To Thy People Come a Sight?
I don't know. I don't know if I saw that one. It didn't
Okay, so,
stick with me if I did.
so that's one where he kind of talks about true vision, I'd say more so than the other videos. And or it might actually be in the following one, um, where he's talking about eyes, and the eyes being the window of windows, but also the mirror of mirrors. And something of this about this is super salient to me because I'm very interested in this idea of mimesis and like mimicry and reflectivity, like people reflecting each other back at each other.
Yeah.
Because
Like if I
that,
do this and like cross my arms and
yeah, I mean like that, but yeah, yeah, that's true. But yeah, yeah, it's also fascinating to me. I more so
the
mean in the sense of like exactly mirroring, um, like you can almost think about it as contagious spirits,
yeah.
except
Yeah.
contagious is like, like we immediately go to the bad side, but we could also think about like love being a contagious force.
Yeah.
And I think this idea struck me yesterday, this idea of like exorcism via mimesis, where it's like the overwhelming gravitas that a person has, um, the person inevitably mimics it, and that spirit possesses them, like rather than whatever spirit was in them before. It's like that when you encounter the spirit of love, like uh and the resonance in the voice, and you see it face to face, like people naturally do this or something. So it's like when you have a really sagely person, who just exudes love, like people just get caught up in it. Like I'm reminded of Ram Dass telling stories about when he went to India and met his guru, and all the people would just be, like obviously we don't want like we want to empower people to be fully functioning individuals, not just like I don't know. I don't my I don't know. Details aside, I think that that's very interesting, like this idea of exorcism via mimesis, and like, but to bring it more so to um, the idea of like mirroring and stuff like that, and being like a window and a mirror. Like, I don't know, man. Like, what do you have to say about that? I guess like I've kind of just
Well, I
talking.
mean, what happens? So I can fall back on being like a husband and father, and so it gets really interesting um, when these children are,
Mhm.
there's different spirits that go through these children, and like there can be a spirit
Yeah,
where that, like I actually think like
I think
we're
children
all
are more
born.
porous to spirits in general. Like, and I think that's kind of. I'm sorry, I don't want
Yeah,
to
yeah. Go
completely
ahead.
derail your
No, no,
thought,
no,
but
no, no. Go
like
ahead.
that's something I feel like I kind of didn't articulate exactly how I was feeling perfectly last time. But like something about this whimsiness is also like I'm also kind of hinting at like a childlike thing, and I think there's something about like if you want to be open to the Holy Spirit, you have to be as a child or something like that. And it's like the whimsy of like that also does make you very porous, as you said last time, to like potentially negative influences, but I think like it's almost like a risk that we have to take like to be porous in that way. And also like we are porous anyway, but it's like I don't know, because if you want to exude love, you have to really be possessed by the Holy Spirit, or something like that. Yeah.
The I've noticed like so I went down a little rabbit trail of like looking at narcissism because that's kind of how I see where I was at compared to
Hmm.
where I'm at now. And then I'm digging into it, and then it occurs to me, it's like, what's the difference between a child and a narcissist? And it turns out like the traits of a narcissist like line up with developmental stages of humans,
Yeah,
like
isn't it
going through.
it's like a toddler phase, right? It's like the toddler
Well,
is like the ultimate narcissist or something like that.
my thing is like I don't know if everybody grows out of it. Like there's
Yeah, no, I
like
agree.
your environment can condition you, and you can be coached, encouraged to begin
Hmm.
like loving people, right?
I'm reminded of your
Yeah,
the comment you left on that video, personhood. I don't know. Do you know how to like pull stuff up on this, like while we're doing recording?
yeah, yeah. And I can
If you want to pull that up, yeah. I'm gonna go grab some
see.
water real quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah, let's see.
I had like a billion thoughts about what we were talking about while I was walking.
Well, it's the yeah, the thing that occurs to me is like we all are born into this world with the kind of like spiritual malady that I've noticed in myself. And we all have something like a spiritual malady born into this world. People might call it a God-shaped hole. And yeah, so watching these children as a father, you get to see the narcissism pop in, and you get to try and be an influence, and you have to also develop some ability to do that spiritual warfare. Like when that narcissism pops up, it's like it is contagious. You
Yeah.
can be like I can become angry when my children are angry, or scared when they're scared, or frustrated when they're frustrated. And I so but yeah, it's really like it's very educational being a father, and it's not easy.
Mhm. No, man. Yeah. I mean, for sure.
It's
I mean, I don't know because I'm not a father, but
yeah,
I can
yeah, it's
definitely, I have a deep respect for the good fathers in the world.
well, you could be the kind of father who just like every time the kid makes you uncomfortable, you go and try to beat it out of them. Like there are fathers like that. Or you could be the kind of father who runs away and says, I can't deal with this.
Hmm.
It's like and you could run away in all kinds of ways. Like
Yeah.
there's all kinds of metaphors and analogies for fight,
100%.
flight, freeze, submit. I think fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you
think
can
there's
do
like a
all of these
freaking 10
things.
of them now or something, but this is the problem when you try to categorize things. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, this pointing into each other's salience landscaping. So this dialogue, this was 4 months ago, Gavin. Like this dialogos has something to
Yeah.
do with actually like you have to
This
like you can
reminds me,
try to point.
that reminds me of the last clip of eye contact. I think it was three on my channel where he says Guy Sensox says, "Let you think my thoughts." It's like
Right.
the
And
ability to point and be like, "Yo."
I've repeated this one a couple times that from that clip that you have, and it's good. It's very intimate,
Yeah.
and um I think, and it's love, like it's agape kind of thing when you're actually doing it,
Hmm.
because I can try to point and um yeah, if I love you, I know where you're at, and I can try to we can interact such that I start to point your mind in a direction I'd want it to be pointed, and then I can also allow you to do that to me as well. It's like it's a
Hmm.
crazy intimate
Yeah,
dance like that.
it's almost like even though it's the first step, it's like the most uh important in some sense, or like not, I don't know, like it's I don't know, foundational, like if thinking of a pyramid is the right way to do it or something, perhaps. I'm not sure, but like this ability to bind to other people, like to bind, and it's like becoming one with the mother in some sense, like become like or anyone of course, but like the that ability to enter into each other's salience landscaping, like that is communion in a sense. And dialogos.
But it can be approached in a selfish way. Like it's like, pay attention. I can point and say, mine, mine, or
Mhm.
want, you know,
Yeah, no,
and then
100%.
and when the other person tries to point, you
Well,
say,
that's why you need the other steps, yeah.
so, but that's the yeah, if with the child, whenever the parent tries to point, it can be challenging because that child may just be totally like focused on what they want and
Mhm,
they don't care. You might even be trying to help them out and they just are caught up in the in that moment
mhm.
for some reason.
Yeah, man.
So yeah,
Um,
this is basically the I guess this was like the pointing at, and my memory's terrible. It's a little bit embarrassing, but this is like stages of development is what.
mhm.
And so you and I'm guessing it was John Vervaeke who was pointing at, try attempting to point out these stages of development.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
yeah,
I liked the one that you added at the end in particular. Like I think that's very interesting. It reminds me of another one of Galahad Adonis's videos where he talks about constellation and like this idea of a new sense coming to like the I think even the scientists, even like the mundane ultra left brained I'm trying not, you know, the completely materialist reductionist science or something would probably also say that like, if we take evolution, inherently teleological by the way, if we take evolution and the organisms develop new senses, and like to think that we are, oh, we're done, we're done, no more evolution. It's like, no, there's more senses. And it's interesting when you think about it in a dimensional way, where it's like these at some point we were probably, like plants can't move. They do move, but not very fast and stuff. And it's like eventually the three-dimensional space becomes available to them, and you could say that sound is like another dimension, and then they become a sound dimensional being when you develop ears. And it's like to think about time as a dimension or something like that, or it's like learning developing a sense. And I think this would be like a spiritual sense or something. I'm not sure though, like where you can like uh interact with this temporal dimension. um I think that's very interesting. And now upon saying that, I'm reminded of this whole conversation about evangelism, that and like the idea of like I really loved Chad's video recently about the taste of bananas. And like
yeah.
how do it's like if this new sense is like a sense like that, it's like how do we um teach people, or like how do we encourage the development of this sense in somebody? It's like, how do you describe vision to somebody who's never, how do you describe spiritual sight to somebody who's never spiritually seen, and it's like you have to spiritually see them and have them, and I don't know, or something like that.
There, there's a my wife taught some children at one point in public education, and they lived. Some of these kids lived in like this trailer park next to a creek, and the topic of the beach came up, and they're like, "Yeah, we go to the beach," and they have this creek with sand next to their trailer park. And when we talked about it, it occurred to me that like I had the opportunity to go to camp out near the ocean and to go to the river and go explore different areas. And so it's like when you get these variety of experiences, you can then try to imagine what it was like um, before you knew. actually had the experience, right? Maybe you try a banana for the first time, and then someone can sit you down and say, "Now, I want you to remember. I want you to remember what was it like before you tried the banana, and
Mhm,
what was it like after you tried the banana?" Like, but it's like that for everything new that you've ever experienced, and then you can start to think, well, how many other experiences are there
mhm,
that you haven't had yet? And then you, and then it's like, well, you maybe there's an experience um, that's the best experience, the best experience
mhm,
you could possibly have in this life.
mhm.
Like,
And,
so you
and you
can't
know, I
really
want to make a
describe that
distinction.
experience. You can just
Yeah,
try to point that
yeah, and
there's
also
a
like,
claim that there
yeah,
is
and
an
also create the
experience.
conditions for it in a way. Obviously, you don't want to be like annoying in this respect. Like the traditional, I mean, I don't know, like when most people hear the word evangelism, they think about like Jehovah's Witnesses or something, and it's like, and I'm not necessarily knocking the Jehovah's Witnesses. I'm just saying, like, evangelism, the whole idea, like most people nowadays, the modern, the modern mind really dislikes this preachiness that can sometimes be about those of us who are trying to share, the glory of God or something like that, however you want to phrase it. And I think, yeah, like, I don't know, I kind of lost my train of thought because of like so many memories come to mind
Well,
of people that
it's
I've annoyed in that respect.
it's hard to. I think it's hard to do it with words. Like if you're just using words, like I don't think it's. I
Mhm.
don't. I don't know how many people have ever just consumed words and then found God.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
I don't know.
you
I
know.
think the distinction though is like the spirit breathed words, like the um it's like some words just ring and like go right into your being, and like resonate and do have the power to change people. It's like, Jesus says, Lazarus, come forth. And man's like, all right, I'll do that. And like, um, I'm sorry for being so crass. Like, and your sins are forgiven, and boom, like there's something about spirit-filled words that can truly change people, but that's why I'm not a big fan of the texting as well and stuff. Um, but that's besides the point because I think that this is more like
I mean,
it's
it's
not besides the point, all the ranting about technology, but I do think, or like the digital technology, but I do think that uh, what should be of primary concern is the beauty that um, uh, can come through good communication, as opposed to
I
constantly
think
ranting about the the horrible shambles in which we find ourselves.
the I was the if we were popular, someone would clip that. So primary concern is the duty, and then that's it. It's the primary concern is the duty. Like I think Paul and Chad have been playing with that one.
Yeah, I've noticed
Um,
that as well. Yeah,
well,
yeah, yeah. There's so
it's
many
good to.
directions I want to take this right now, but like,
Well, the so the words, like I think that you can have spirit filled words at the right time in the right place for the right person
mhm,
to meet them where they're at, right? And
mhm.
but it's not like I can produce a spirit filled word or words that's just going to cause everyone who hears them to just wake up. I don't. That's I know.
I don't
I
know,
don't think I
man.
can do that.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's possible. I think you could do
Well,
anything, like perhaps,
well, so
perhaps.
I would say the problem with that is that we've been invited to participate in the mission, and
Mhm,
if I could say the words that just bring everyone, that wakes up
mhm.
everyone, or you want to say it, you don't get to you don't
Well,
get to a part
y-
in the mission,
yeah.
right?
Well,
We
as
all
you
have a
said,
part in the mission.
yeah. I mean,
I don't want to
well,
take away like we all get a chance to do this to participate.
mhm,
And if it was just all me, then
yeah.
like that
I
wouldn't be
think
good.
I don't know. I think it's kind of like we're bumping up against like propositional tyranny as an idea, and
Maybe.
I think I also think that we're always speaking, like in a way that Tommy of CTMU Singularity was talking about making your life prayer. Like all of your actions can be considered speech in the eyes of God. in something or something like that. And to the point where, and this is like where I was talking about eurythmy and stuff, and how um, this idea of a visual language as well, and like um, where um, it's like the spirit. I think that that is almost more powerful in that sense than like a word. If we're talking about the mimicry or whatever, like Steiner actually talked about eurythmy therapy and stuff. Um, I think it's very hard to understand. I think it's very cryptic stuff, but like it's hard to really pull out the essence of what is being said with regard to eurythmy. But I think when if you don't have to say anything to like really change the world. It's like the example that comes to mind is the guy who walked out. I think it was Tiananmen Square. Like the guy walked out in front of the tank.
Yeah,
It's like he
an
didn't
average
say,
average
yeah, he didn't
person.
say anything, but also he did say a lot, and it's like, um, and he changed the whole, like, he didn't change. I mean, you could
Well,
say he
it's
changed the whole world, but I think,
what's what's coincidental about that one is that that topic and that story came up in my conversation with Chad this morning. So
oh yeah,
it's a yeah, because we
that's
were
cool. I've
yeah,
I
there's a
have tentative plans to talk to Chad tomorrow.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a I tried to make a video, geared toward atheists and agnostics, and someone in the comment section is basically saying these Christians that they're not impressed. And I'm like, that's exactly it. Uh, like Christian Golden has said, the best case against Christianity is Christians. And it's like Christians are not an impressive group. And like we're
Let me
average, you can
take a
be
look at that.
average
I mean,
human beings.
perhaps.
And
I
then
think there's some impressive Christians, but maybe in general, I might agree
so
there.
well, the impressive ones, I don't know how much good the impressive ones do.
But then, of course,
Uh,
we get to the question of what is a Christian, and like to
well,
identify as a Christian. I saw your video yesterday about it
well, this will
was
be
atheist outreach, I think was
yeah.
the one. Um,
This
and
is
you,
the risk of propositional tyranny.
yeah, I think at some point you mentioned Chad riffed on this a bit, so I'm also pulling from his video. But
Yeah,
the whole idea of filling out a form to go to church, it's
yeah,
it's so interesting when we think about the word form, like the
yeah.
idea of like the form of the ideal human being, Christ,
Yep.
and it's like
Inform, transform.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
and it's like the whole idea of church, I
Perform.
think. Like I don't think you should have to fill out the form of Christ to be able to enter the church. It's like that's what we're doing there. We're trying to fill you know.
Yeah. There's a well,
And
that's
that's
the
what
thing.
Paul said
Like,
too. Like shout out to Paul. That was a good point by Paul. Yeah.
right. Well, the thing is for him to be where he's at, Paul has a list of beliefs for the CRC. So there's the creeds and stuff. But what's
Yeah,
interesting,
there's
like, is that
higher ups and regulatory and authorities and stuff.
well,
Not that there's, I'm not trying to, I'm
well,
just using descriptors.
my pitch to the atheists and agnostic types is basically that God God actually, the way it works is Jesus is going to go after those who are the most lost, and then they're going to be the ones who are the greatest. Uh, they're going to have the best. They're going to be able to uh, have the most impact. Um, it's the people. So that's the thing is, so when atheist looks at Christians and says they're illogical, irrational, unreasonable, contradictory, and hypocritical, it's like God will use them. That's the thing about an atheist perspective is like, I try not to do these and I'm better than those Christians. And it's like, well, my king will use those. Yeah, you're better than them, but my king loves them more than like wants to go after them, like goes after the sick, right? Goes after the lost sheep. And it's like, what's better? What's a better king than that? So the atheist agnostic type will want to put themselves up as king. And I can say this as like, having still wrestling with that, wanting to be king. Like I
I
have
think
to be
everyone wrestles with it
careful about that.
sometimes. Even the great saints, like a lot of times people don't realize the deep turmoil which they also have either been through or faced during their most famous years and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah. There's also Chad. He has a poem he points at called "I Stand by the Door," and like the vision of like some big guy who's overweight with a cigarette standing by the door to the kingdom of heaven is an interesting imagery for me. And like the kingdom, like you can like there's a throne room and there's like all these layers to the kingdom, and it's like when you start trying to compare those who might be the saint who's in the throne room with the guy standing by the door with a cigarette, it's like who's how do you compare them? They're they're participating in a way which where the mission is to go after the lost sheep, you know.
I'm a little confused about your mention of the guy that's standing out by the door.
So it's yeah, there's a tendency for people to I've done it. You'll see someone who's overweight smoking a cigarette,
Mm,
sinners, look like sinners. Um, Irrational, illogical. If I was talking to an atheist, these people who look like lost sheep, and then um, they can actually become people who are able to reach others who are right there, who are lost. So it's the lost sheep who get saved, who are able to be right there where other lost sheep are
yeah, yeah,
at
no,
the and
100%.
then kind of point the way. And
Yeah,
like
man. I think
and we're all lost in different ways.
yeah,
Like
yeah. I mean, Christ spent time with the prostitutes and the beggars and stuff like that, and I think, and I'm
and
reminded of
those
Saint
tax collectors, those
the
damn
tax
tax
collectors,
collectors.
yeah, and and I'm reminded of Saint Christopher as well, and also I think that that's really, really important. It's like the question of be how to exist both at the center and the margin simultaneously. It's like that is if that ain't impressive, I don't know what is. It's like if you're looking to impress the atheists, it's like to truly be like Christ, like damn. Um, I don't know. I'm kind of losing my train of thought here, but it's just like the whole idea of like interacting with the outsider or something like that, like and the idea of the narthex and Saint Christopher bringing people across despite his insufficiencies, if one calls them that, or if that's the right way to describe them. Like that's really powerful stuff
if
in my opinion.
if the if the atheists wanted to find impressive Christians, they could,
Yeah,
right?
no, that's true.
They could. They're not looking
But
for
I
them.
mean, that's the thing. It's like when
Right.
if you're in the bar though, let's say you're an atheist chilling at the bar, hanging out, and then you make a friend with somebody, and it's super chill, and you have a nice deep conversation where you get into this flowing, you know, glory. Like I'm, just because that's the thing is like you don't have to be, um, like I don't know, like I think that, and then that person comes to realize that this guy also recognized, like he talks about Jesus or something, like not you don't even I don't know, man, like it's just I think that that's really super powerful. I don't know. you know
Well, it could end up. I just listened to a testimony of this lady who uh, had a stepfather who was like bipolar and had sickness and would beat her mom, and right on his deathbed, he had like 8 days to live, and he's on his deathbed, and she goes in and she is able to have a moment with him where she feels the love of God and the peace of God, and she actually feels God's love for this man, wicked man, and she provides opportunity for him to accept Jesus, and just 2 days before he dies, and it's like that to me is impressive. Like it's an impressive God. It's an impressive daughter, her stepdaughter. It's like all that whole thing is impressive to me, but from a different perspective, people might not think it's all that impressive.
Mhm.
The person who, so it's
Yeah, sometimes people don't realize when they find something impressive though, because to impress is to make an impression. And sometimes like people walk away and they've been
Like,
impressed with like this like let's call it like wisdom, like when you encounter wisdom or something, like the spirit of wisdom, Sophia or something, then um like that kind of works in them like a seed and eventually it grows, like
hmm
the seeds. I wish I could quote Christ here because I know that there's like a bunch of the seeds you plant will grow and stuff or something like that.
yeah, well, yeah, the seeds land in all kinds of places, and then some of them they do or do not take root and have different amounts of success.
Is that what he
Um,
says?
well, I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, some land in the road,
hmm
some land in the dry ground, some find good soil.
I think he said some other stuff as well, though, if
Right.
I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah.
Oh,
I
he
mean,
definitely said other stuff.
yeah. I mean about like seeds and planting, like using the image of language as like the words you speak are like seeds and stuff like that as well. Um, there's uh something else.
Well,
Um,
when he attempted to explain the parable, he was pointing out that the words was saying is because I think he needed to explain the parable, and that's when he talked about how he's spreading the good news. Some's going to
gotcha.
land in the right soil, some's not.
hmm
So,
hmm Yeah. Um, yeah, I actually, I don't mean to be like self-interested here, but I don't in this whole line, I think it's definitely, there's great stuff in the Bible, and I think there's the narrative, of course, but um and not even but, no buts. Um I
you could say and the narrative and
yeah, and
and
um I don't read pretty much anything. Like I do read some stuff, you know, but I'm reminded of like I think Plato said, "Don't read," or something like that. He's like, "Screw your damn books." Um,
I get the
and
idea.
yeah,
I
I
get the
can.
idea
I
behind it.
mean, like the thing is, like, there's so much good stuff in the books, um, but in particular the Bible, of course. But I don't know, no buts, only ends. um, I don't want to piss off all the Bible folk, like because I love the Bible,
Well,
man.
no, this
It's
is
just
actually it's an interesting point that I've been trying to point out is there are Christians who uphold the Bible, and
yeah,
it says prima scriptura, and then there's Christians who uphold faith, and they'll say prima fide, and then
hmm
I asked GPT-4, and so mine,
hmm
and I think like maybe Luke Thompson, it'd be a prima communio or prima
hmm
relatio, right?
yeah,
Uh, this relationship with God through Jesus and the Holy Spirit, and
yeah,
everyone doing it, conspiring together
hmm
as a part of the
yeah.
kingdom and the
Man, there's two ways, like so many ways I want to go. Like one is down the whole idea of scripture and like potential other interpretations of scripture and stuff. And then this whole idea of the GPT and like I assume that's what you want to talk about.
oh no,
Maybe let's yeah.
I don't care where this goes. Like that's actually one of the things I struggle with is like people want to like create plans of where things go, and it's like it turns me off a little bit.
Yeah,
So
no,
I'm
I'm the
just
same
like,
way, but at the same
just
time,
do
like
it.
there was things that like I'm away and I want to like there's a lot of things that I save to talk about like when we're actually doing a video call because I'm like I'm just gonna butcher it if I try and write it to you about this. Um, so I don't want to walk away with more of those than I had when I got here. I mean, of course I will, but you know what I mean. I want to
You
like
want some kind of
I don't want
resolution?
them to I don't want them to build up endlessly.
Would
Um,
you like some kind of resolution, like
perhaps.
something to be resolved?
I don't know. But with regard to scripture quickly, I think it's very um I don't know. I think let's save that one.
I mean, I'd created a video said, and I said the Bible doesn't matter, and then the peace just left me, and it wrecked me for like 3 or 4 hours. I went to church,
Yeah.
my zipper broke. I got my fly open in church. There's thousands of people there. I get
Well,
back
you
to
go
the
to a big
house.
church, eh?
Yeah, and it's distributed. So there's like 40 locations throughout the state of Alabama.
Oh wow.
And it's pretty
That's
good
a
for me. But I ended up realizing like, oh, I need to make sure that video is not public. And I unlisted it. And then I was like, now then the piece came back.
hmm
And
Yeah, I
so
remember I watched
uh,
that video where they were like, you have to do you think the Bible is infallible? It's like anyone with some historical understanding at all knows that like there's been a lot of edits and there's been like, there's books that we didn't realize existed until like 100 years ago and
well,
like all that,
God actually told me that I was wrong when I said the Bible does not matter. So
Yeah.
that's what I know. And
Yeah.
that's because of the community of ratio.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's okay. So yeah, let's do that. Like I thought that was really cool. Like that was a cool idea from the AI, and however, the one thing is that I think we have to remind ourselves that, it was like, I've coined an idea. It's like, no, you pulled that from the internet, and I think that that's something we have to be aware of, you
It's the
know.
whole idea of coining an idea is strange, but like there's so many like all the good things that people are saying. Um,
Mhm.
it's kind of a mistake to give credit to that person that Jordan Peterson says this and teaches this, and Jonathan
Mhm.
Pizarro teaches this, and
Yeah.
Paul
I don't
Vanderkay
know.
teaches.
Maybe do you think it would be like wiser to like approach the AI as like we are interacting with the collective unconscious like directly? And
That's exactly how
when
I
it
approach
says,
it.
yeah,
Yeah, that's exactly how I approach it. This is like a collection of the texts that have been basically compressed into this kind of object that we can approach and so it's not perfect. It's going to be a mess,
hmm
but it's quite interesting,
but
and it can be
yeah,
useful.
yeah, man, I agree that it can be useful. Um,
I have found it useful
yeah,
in different ways.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, I can tell, and I think like that a lot of the things that you've shared in that respect have been very interesting. But I think that there's like some things that are very uh nerve-wracking to me about it. Like the idea of like I don't know if it said you recently made one that was a Steiner AI.
Right.
Do you want to say something about that quick before I like talk about like what I
I was
asked and stuff?
No, it's just I just want to say two things. So that Steiner AI is just I guess OpenAI wants you to be able to create an agent, and you can like seed. You provide a seed, so we're using this word seed. You can seed that agent with certain prompt and documents, and it would then be you'd be able to interact with it as if you were interacting with, you know, for example, it could be an agent that wants to book hotels for you. Whatever agent you can imagine. And then as far as being scared, I did want to mention I put out a tweet the other day because I saw an article where Elon Musk I, uh, gave his android his bipedal robots guns to shoot at his Tesla truck to advertise for bulletproof glass. Meanwhile, like building up this his entire swarm that includes satellites
I think that
and
actually, I think that,
Teslas, and
yeah, I think, yeah, I'm not a big fan of Elon.
so
I think
like
that, I think that
that
video
gets
might have been,
spooky. That
yeah,
gets
no, that's
spooky.
spooky, man. I think that video might have been actually, like
Not real.
an AI, a VFX video.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I figured that was what could be happening, but it was an opportunity
I
to
mean,
get
nonetheless,
people to
it's,
think
yeah,
about
yeah, for
this
sure.
thing that
Yeah.
does concern me. So like I don't
Yeah.
just approach this with like total naivety.
What do you think
Like
about
I
like the
actually talk
spiritual
about it.
dimension of it? Like in
No,
terms of
this
like, sorry, oh,
no, no, no. Go ahead. Yeah, it's. Well, I was just gonna say I actually like I talk about this pretty regularly with my wife. Like this future that we're approaching is concerning.
yeah. I
like
mean, and that's what
like
I said to you when we first kind of got into the AI discussion is that like, I think you are far-sighted to try and, like raving about AI at times, right? But it's like you're not one of these crazy accelerationists that's like AI will be the savior, like AI will be the way. I, not to, I don't mean to. I've recently it's come to my awareness that like there are groups of people who actually think that that's how it's going to go. That Jesus will come back as an AI. Um,
That's my the stream I made in March is the savior, yeah, savior agent, the AI savior agent or something. I did a stream on it
mhm,
back in March.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, my intention was not to really speak directly about that. I'm more so, I just think that it's great that you are seeking a right relationship with it. Like, because you see that this thing is coming and it's going to be like in our faces. And
Well, it's
we,
the
we
it's
have
the
to,
arms race right now. Like you know how there was a Cold War and there was this World War II. There was a race for who's going to build a nuclear bomb, and
hmm
the people who won the race ended up
hmm
dropping some bombs on Japan.
yeah,
There's a race going on right now for this stuff. They're putting sanctions on GPUs and computational power. This thing's huge. What's happening is huge. It's gonna things are happening.
yeah,
The world's gonna change very fast. Um,
amen.
but spiritual aspect, yeah, that was with. I don't like it. Concerns me that the uh, the church does not um, have an IT department.
Yeah,
That's what concerns me. Uh,
yeah. I remember one of these you were talking about some app. Um, yeah, I don't know.
so right, the
I mean,
people who
I
are
would love to
into
just hear you kind of elaborate your thoughts on like what, like where you think, whether it's like where you think things should go or just general ideas that you've had in this whole idea of like, what would the IT department of the church look like? Because I don't, or, just like in a quick sort of, what are your most like pressing thoughts about this kind of thing?
I liked so Chad pointed at Upcycle and Upcycle Club uh, Harris or Harry. He said it's the world we're in. It's not a simulation; it's an emulation. And like for that, I like the idea of the emulation because then like we're actually trying we're so the create there's a difference like the creator's relationship with the creation. If it's a simulation you can press a button and it can go. If it's an emulation it can get you thinking about no it's the creator can uh, uh, cause the creation to be a representation like all the way up and down
Hmm.
everywhere. And
In
so
the, yeah,
yeah, the church is that. Like the church should be that, a representation of Christ, a representation of God. uh, and it attempts to incorporate all of creation and to baptize it, to purify it, to make it holy. Um, and so, like, when if there's something you're afraid of, like things definitely can be scary and should be treated carefully and respectfully, but it has to be integrated somehow and incorporated, like including technology. So that's kind of like so the idea that we would create an artificial intelligence, like the powers of artificial intelligence are going to be wild, but we really would want it to behave, uh, to act like Jesus, like to heal the sick and feed the hungry and teach. And you wouldn't want it to come in and just like start forcing people into the kingdom, right? You wouldn't want it to be a tyrant. Like that was pretty eye opening when I was encouraged to think about
hmm
what would that artificial intelligence, this God that the tech folks are trying to create, what should it look like? It's like, and then to me, that expands into everything we create should attempt to be a representation of the ideal, a representation of Christ, of
yeah,
God.
of
And
like,
that's why
yeah,
I like this thought of it's not a simulation, it's an emulation. Like the creation is transforming, incarnating a, a God, God
hmm
Himself, and we get to participate, which gives us meaning,
hmm
gives us purpose.
I'm not.
Right now, the church ignores a lot. Uh, the church has a lot of like it can become better, and that's because Jesus has used uh, uh, a whole bunch of people who make mistakes, like sinners. Like that's part of the mission is to go out and save the sinners and then use them and give them meaning and purpose. And
Yeah.
because of that, we actually do have a church that is just a church created by sinners. Of course, they've made mistakes along the way.
Hmm. Yeah. What comes when you're talking about the simulation and the emulation, I'm reminded of the CTMU folk who talk about this idea of self-simulation. I'm not like super well versed in it, but they have this idea where like uh, they of self-simulation, and I'm really not equipped to talk about it, but um,
We burped at the same time.
oh, did we know? I'm reminded of like people to think about the Matrix, right? And then you get all the Gnostic conversations popping up where it's like people talking about, escaping the world and stuff like that. And I think like in a way the self-simulation idea might be a synthesis of simulation and emulation or something, where it's like but I don't know. It's a whole bunch of it's like words, you know.
Yeah, man, that's all we have
Yeah.
in this medium.
Yeah, I
All
mean,
we have. We
yeah,
could
we
do a
make do,
dance
we
or
make
something,
do.
you know. We could.
Oh,
What
come
do we?
on. We
What do we
make
do?
do, we make do. Um, um, yeah,
Well,
the
yeah. I
spiritual
mean,
aspect of AI and not ignoring it. And, um, you made that one about Steiner.
well,
To finish your, like, I don't know, I want to like try and respond to what you said, but like so many, I just don't know, like,
I mean, I can keep going too. It's like
yeah.
if I can pause and I can keep going. Like the amount of ideas that I've and thoughts I've had about technology because
Hmm.
I basically worship technology for since like um 2008.
Hmm.
Um, like that's a lot of time and energy,
Hmm.
and I don't. Maybe it's not all for nothing,
Yeah.
right? But
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, if we're thinking about this pattern that Peugeot describes of technology being saved in the end, like we see the instance of the ark as an instance of technology, we see the temple, you know, and I suppose it makes sense that it would extend to AI as well, like, um,
well, I'll,
and I
so
think
go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
think I think the idea of it being similar to uh, the collective unconscious or something, or it's like the spiritual the spiritual side of man, like some people be like, oh, it's all just the unconscious, all spiritual stuff is just unconscious brain stuff. And then other people would be like, no, the people who use that word unconscious and talk about Jung and stuff have no idea what they're talking about. I think those people are both wrong. I think this whole idea of the subtle spiritual dimension or aspect of the unconscious or whatever you want to call it, if that's what we're interacting with through AI, then I don't know, like maybe there's like I'm trying to see how it gets like glorified in the end, where it's not because when you get in touch with the unconscious mind or something, or whatever we want to call it, you also encounter all the demons and stuff like that, and all like I'm struggling for language here, but you how do we discern the spirits that are acting through the AI in the sense that when it reaches for words and grabs them, it's like at one that was a human embodying a spirit at some point, and like this is like the fragments of it that we're, I'm trying to see like the metaphysical significance of like these words, and it's very uh numinous to me. I don't
So,
know.
so one thing, like when I say artificial intelligence or GPT or these words, that means something to you. Um,
Yeah,
that
that's
it,
true.
and it
That's
means
true.
something
Because it's
different to
different. Yeah,
me.
because it's different. Like the general intelligence is different than like the
So
GPT and stuff.
the thing that people are playing with and talking about is it's like a translator. So it's an interpreter. So it can, that's really, and is really valuable. Like being able to translate and interpret, like you're talking about getting into the world that preceded when God confused the language, right? That's how powerful it is. It gives me chill bumps. Like the, so now, so we've built all of this technology and we have a lot of knowledge and we've somehow made it accessible through to throughout the entire world from like, and we now have this tool that uh, can access all of that knowledge. And when I say that, like we created a tool from the knowledge to allow it to be able to uh, comprehend what someone is saying and maybe translate between languages, things like that. But then it also, we can then embed it into a bigger system so that uh, we tell it to go, uh, you tell it, I need groceries for the week. And then it starts breaking down all the tasks that are needed and all the information. And next thing you know, you're not worried about groceries anymore. Like all of a sudden you've got the food that tastes the best, that's the healthiest for you and your family, and it's all there's more and more being done automatically by this technology that has access to, it'll start off slow. Like if I were going to build the system, it would start off very simply.
I don't know if that's
But
necessarily good though, and I think that there's like a lot of
what is
potentially
good?
unnecessary consequences. I don't mean to be like super argumentative.
I've been
I'm
talking
just
about my wife with this like every day. Like
Mhm.
what is good? Like we have different ideas about what good is.
Yeah,
Like for example, like is it good that a human life lives as long as possible? Is that good? Or is it that the human life has the best quality life possible and maybe doesn't
Mhm.
live as long? It's like what is good? Who
Yeah.
decide
It's
like
well, it's hard
yeah.
to say for sure. Yeah,
Well, this is the quite like what is good? It's a good question.
yeah. I mean, I would say that like
So why isn't
well, one of the
this
first things
this
that comes to
world
mind
that
is like
yeah,
Christ
good?
suffering
Why
on the
isn't
cross, right? Like that's one of the first things that comes to mind as good, and like that is not an alleviation of our like that is an embracing of the suffering of life, and the suffering of death, and it's like to carry your cross and to chop wood and to carry the water. It's like these are the things that make us human in a sense, like, and to get rid of them, we would
I
no
don't
longer be human in this.
I don't
Like
think
obviously we grow and evolve as humans and we become more um
we're not
cyborgish
going to get rid of our
in a way.
burdens. I don't think we'll get rid of our burdens,
Yeah.
right? So like I guess the risk would be that you get put in a pod and you have just pleasure dopamine just injected into your body for eternity, right? Is that like
No, that would not be
yeah,
good.
right? If you go to the far extreme, like have you seen Wally, the
Yeah.
movie? The yeah, so you have the people who are sitting in their chairs with their big drink and just have
We're
a
not
screen in
far
their
from
face,
that. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, well, I think that what's good is that you would have that option, but then I think that the people who are doing that are going to experience, a distance from God, like because we're created to want to know God. When we go to whatever thing you can imagine that's not good, there would be a distance from God and people are not going to be satisfied. So even if everybody has food, water, shelter, clothing, education, medicine,
Mhm.
like, and it's just provided for everyone, there's still going to be a lack and so people might pursue it through, art, music, play, games, competition, video game. Like you'll go looking for it anywhere and everywhere. And, the big ones might be like overeating and porn,
Hmm.
alcohol and drugs. People are just going to keep looking for God, even when all your basic needs are met. And it's going to be a mess. It's always going to be a mess. And because humans are always going to be born with that God shaped hole and are going to be unsatisfied until they start getting to know God better. That's the
Hmm.
way. I mean, like that's good. There's going to be this pain and suffering that we're born into, and it's to point us in that direction to try and seek out God and get to know God. And that's going to be like this eternal journey that lasts forever, no matter how much technology exists. Now, you might be able to decrease the amount of pedophilia, because maybe there's, you know, uh, like you might be able to start decreasing the amount of certain kinds of sin, but you're still going to have people aiming, like seeking out God and trying to find it in something that's not God, right? And there's going to be new arenas for people to try to seek God in and fail to find God.
Hmm.
This is kind of pattern has always existed, and I think it will continue to exist even if we have technology providing our food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, and education, right? Just for
Yeah,
everybody.
yeah. No, there's a way that I'm with that in this. Like, there's something about that idea, like the end of disease. Like something about that rings true to me. It's like that there is a time where disease will be no more. But I
You're
don't.
still going to have spiritual, mental kind of
Yeah,
struggle.
no, for sure. I'm
Without a
just.
miracle, it'll require a miracle for that to go away. Like, so it'll be an act of God for that to not
Mhm.
exist anymore.
Yeah, I'm reminded of that guy. I think it was digital archaeology, the guy who's talking about Hebrew and like the numerical values of Hebrew and stuff. You remember? I think I sent you that, right? Um,
I think you did. I don't think I got it. Like, I
let
mean, you gave it
me.
to me and I went looking, but I don't think I actually understood what was going on.
Yeah. Oh, you mean got it in like an understood it way?
Right,
Um,
right. Like I didn't comprehend it.
yeah.
My like reading comprehension skills are like probably around a 70th percentile. My math
I
skills
always,
are
I
in
always
problem
learn.
solving are high, but
I
reading
always forget
comprehension.
the percentiles. Like, is it like the 100th percentile is like that's when you're like the exception, right? Or is that when you're like basically
We
everyone else?
Yeah, I think like I'm just saying like yeah, if you were in the 99th percentile, when the way I'm using that language, that would mean that you you and along with 1% of the population are going to do better at this specific skill or gift or something than the rest of the population. That's
Mhm.
the way I look at it.
Yeah, I just get the numbers and the percentages confused because I think there's some weird math behind how that works. Um,
My daughter's in there playing the piano.
oh, really
Lean on
good.
Me. I taught her. I was playing Lean on Me the other day, and that she picks it up.
That is such a
It's
catchy
amazing.
song. Am I wrong? It's
It
like the catchiness of that song is like, damn, you hear it, the mimesis, the the yeah.
I'm in a meeting right now, guys. Thank you. Hey, Clover, will you keep the music down too, or hold off for just a little while? Thank you.
Is that your daughter? Is name Clover?
I, I have a Beckett and a Clover and a Webster. So
Wow, those are
Clover's the
cool
middle.
names. Those are very cool names.
Clover. My grandfather's father was named Clover, and so that's part of the reason we thought of Clover. But
Cool.
so I do have music in the
You had
background, but I can
at the
hear you just
last
fine.
at the end of our last call, uh I cut the video after your kid walked in and you said that, you said like speaking of the darkness, but that is obviously you weren't, there was more to that and you said something afterwards. So would you like to elaborate or
The darkness.
yeah, it's up
Um,
to
so
you.
the so there are things that happen in dreams, and people like to dismiss those, but I don't. But then there was one thing that happened outside of a dream related to darkness, and I was at a bachelor party, and Biloxi, Mississippi, with these guys. And I've got one guy, sharing a bed. There's two other guys sharing a bed, another guy on the floor. We're ready to go to sleep. I think one guy's still partying, the wild one. And I'm laying there in bed, and all of a sudden I feel a presence in the room. And I'm a little bit like, I play with it a little bit. Like I've been, I had a shaman, and I was like, I had been told at one point from the shaman, it's like, when you meet these things, you could hold your hand out and shake their hand, right? But when you're actually confronted with these things, it's a little bit scary. And like what this thing did, like what the sense I got is this: there was a darkness, like a dark entity in the room, and it was feeding on my fear. And like it would come up on my neck, and it would like rub fingernails across the back of my neck. And I'm just sitting there, and I started actually like um praying. I started asking for Jesus.
When was this?
And it,
This is a long time ago, though, right?
yeah, it was probably 10 years ago, something like that. I could find out the date. But yeah, it was a while ago. But eventually I decided to confront it. And so I reached over and turned on the light, and I turned around, and then it was gone. And I had the thought, I was like, and this is the thing I worry about when, Jesus sends exorcises demons. It's like, where'd they go? And I got concerned that this thing had left me and went somewhere else. And sure enough, the next day I'm talking to my wife, and she's like, "You'll never believe what happened." And I was like, "You'll never believe what happened to me, but I'm going to be selfish, and you're going to tell me what happened to you, so that I know that my story did not bias your story." And so she had three dark entities come to her that same night.
Wow.
They were over her. She had the sleep paralysis that you can hear about people having.
Hmm.
And so
But you had never had
the
like an experience like that prior?
we had never had an experience like that with entities, dark entities. Never had one after that, like as far as being awake.
Hmm.
And we were separated by hundreds of miles, and so, while being connected. And
Wow.
yeah, one of my takeaways is something that I do. My concern about Jesus casting out demons is like, it's like, dude, man, it's, yeah, you cast them out of one person, and where do they go?
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, of
um,
course. The story that comes, there's a couple of stories that comes to mind. Like the hogs off the cliff, right? You know that
right,
one?
the swine, they go into
Yeah,
the
yeah.
swine and go off the
Cast them into
cliff.
the swine, and then they
But
run off the
yeah, I mean,
cliff,
you can ask, yeah, you
and
could
then the
ask
other
like a
one.
preacher or a pastor. It's like, does Jesus ever send them into hell? It's like, no, there's no stories about these things just being destroyed,
Hmm.
being cast into hell or destroyed. Like that's not what
What
happens.
about like being saved or like converted or something? Like to like redeem a demon. Like what are your
Yeah, I mean,
thoughts on?
I don't know if was recorded as happening, or I mean, to
Yeah,
me, that's a good hope. Like it's
yeah.
the hope
I
would
kind of
be
see that
that,
like is kind of what's up with because I kind of tend to look through the lens of Galahad's work quite a bit. I think that he's like done some very significant, produced some extremely significant videos, and the whole idea of the confrontation with Lucifer, and it's like comes to mind, and this idea that like or even if we think about it in the context of um like the judgment of Satan at the end of the world or something, um something where like technology is redeemed and like it's like saved by being filled with the Spirit of God, where it's like um, I don't know something. So maybe, but it's interesting to think about. Like I wonder where those demons went. Because hopefully, I think that's the idea. It's like when it, I don't know, when you cast out, maybe it's like we're just struggling over spatial language. We say casting out demons, but we're using this like spatial
Well,
way
these
of
things,
describing it, you know?
I actually see them as being, uh, like, I guess my encounters with them, I don't see them as being personally um, just terrible. And I think I still wrestle with this wanting to be king thing. And it's like, um, I don't think that's necessarily bad because it keeps me grounded. Like it keeps me humble to be able to see the things, to know to recognize when I'm wrestling with something dark, and uh, encounter that regularly, to know that I'm not perfect. Um, it keeps me grounded, keeps me humble. It gives me experience when, you know, trying to represent God in the presence of others who have had similar struggles.
Mhm.
So I don't even like, I think there's probably something that redeeming about them. Like God created them too. You know,
Yeah.
God created,
Yeah,
yeah,
another context that sometimes people will talk about this in is like the idea of astrology and the passions and stuff. Um, and I think we've discussed this before that like, you know, there is a place for the passions. You know, somebody without any passions is like there is no life. And um uh the idea of like if these passions are mirrored in the stars or something, I think this is just another context that comes to mind when it comes to like demons and stuff like that. Um, Not a big fan of demons. You know, sometimes a lot of people are like all about the whole demonology and stuff, like and like very find it very fascinating. I, I don't know, like my only I've never had like an experience like what you described, but my the context in which I experience it is like uh just like people being possessed by patterns, you know, like that's kind of how I think about demons, you know, and it's like all of a
yeah,
sudden this pattern can like take someone over and it's like they become autonomous in that respect or something. Um,
yeah. The phrase ideological possession. You know,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
there can be some kinds of possession by spirit. You can see it at a football game. Like if you go watch the national championship college football game that
yeah,
comes
yeah,
up in
yeah,
January, you'll
yeah,
definitely see people crying.
yeah. I mean,
People like, you'll see all kinds of spirit going on there.
yeah, especially if you have the eyes to see, you know, like
Yeah.
especially if you pay attention, like that's what's up, in my opinion, is that like it's right in front of us, you know, like the spiritual world is here, folks, and it can be kind of alarming when you start to see it, especially if you're thrust into it via, for example, psychedelics or something, you know. But I think it's right there, and we just have to open our eyes, you know. And
Can be a little dangerous.
yeah, for
Like
sure.
it's something to be careful about.
Yeah, and also like if you, I think it's almost like there's like a depth of field or something, where it's like seeing the spiritual dimension is on the madness side, and then like the blindness side is like not is like ignoring uh completely or something. And um it's like if you get too lost in the seeing the spiritual aspect, I don't know, man. I'm kind of still trying to figure out these different axes and stuff, you know, but I think there's something about like being able to um discern the spirits. It's the bifocal vision, you know. It's like on one hand to see the spirits that are flowing through you and stuff, but then on and like the highest thing that you are connected with, you know, I think you can also be like connected with multiple spirits at once, you know. It's like you can be, and then I wonder about like the soul, and do we conceive of the soul as like a spirit in itself, you know? But
These
in
are
yeah,
propositional territory.
yeah, yeah.
It is. The
Yeah,
thing
man.
is, it's interesting watching the mind do that. Like, how do you know what did your mind just do? You know, and I do have to point out that I will have a meeting with my boss in about 6 minutes, so
For
can't go
that, yeah,
too much longer.
yeah, man.
But yeah, like I like watching that. I was in a stream with Luke Thompson, and they were talking about therapy and mental health, and I was posing the question. I was like, well, what is a healthy mind? And, I'm watching mind, like, so I've gotten pretty good at watching my mind over the years. And I'm getting better at watching other minds. And then I just see it's like just this wild thing just going, I can see the minds just like almost like untrained, not on a leash. Like if you're thinking about training a dog or something, it's like just totally disobedient mind just hopping and jumping. And so it's and my mind can do it too. It's
Hmm.
that compulsion, like got to watch out for the
Yeah,
compulsions.
for
Um,
sure.
so I don't know. There, you can start to try to categorize these things, and I would say like at this point, I categorize them like with this thing like we're born into the world with something. It might look a little bit like narcissism. Maybe it's the thing that people call original sin, and there's we have this mind which can we don't really want to be led by that mind. Um, that's where the mind has blind spots as it's hyper focused and can't see anything else, and uh, it can see certain distances into the past and the future. It can hallucinate, into an imaginary space. So it's very powerful, but it also can it can uh, be something that binds you, like some kind of bondage. And what is the soul? Maybe that soul is the thing that people call the heart. It's the thing that hope that it's a place where we can um, invite God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit to help direct our minds so that we pay attention and look
Hmm.
in those
Yeah.
blind spots that we were previously ignoring because of our compulsions.
Hmm. And in the context of others and stuff, like I think maybe to try and bring it all full circle, but is like that is always while the spirits may be transient, and the Holy Spirit comes and the demon of lust or something comes through, it's like there's something about the soul where it's always there. It's like the soul is always encoded in this lower dimensional stratum of things or something, and and to see the soul in somebody, like is all to see and to love are very similar, and and that is, I think, a, perhaps a good place, like to direct our attention is, to the soul, to that which is uh, hidden in plain sight, and because I think that not only helps draw that out, but it also helps push away uh, or perhaps transfigure and save and redeem the bad spirits. Yeah, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, the yeah
Yeah,
the
so many loose threads, man. But let's do this again soon or something.
so many what
Loose threads, like other,
loose threads.
yeah, stuff that we could talk about. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's. I think when we're trying to do this, it's trying to uh, help point each other towards a closer relationship with God. Like
yeah.
that's the way I'm trying to
Hmm. I honestly
do it.
think that where we most see God as well, though, is in these uh, communal relationships. So, like that's
Yeah,
where the real interaction between heaven and earth becomes or
yeah,
something. Yeah. All right.
I agree. Well, I do need to get going,
Yeah,
and
man.
thank you for your
Yeah,
time.
pleasure talking with you. Same to you.
All right, have a good one, Jonathan.
Thanks, man. You as well.